Smackdown starts off with Jacob Fatu and the Usos. They was cutting a back and forth promo. It starts off with Jacob Fatu. He ended up mentioning, the upcoming match with him and Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. He basically ends up mentioning what he's been mentioning before, how he needs the World Heavyweight title, he needs the victory, that losing isn't an option, and that he needs to do it for his family. We soon end up getting the Usos. They respond. They end up going back and forth. End up starting off with Jimmy. Ends up, trying to be the calm, cool, collected one. Ends up saying that, look, he understands why Jacob is doing what he's doing. He respects it, but he also ends up mentioning that what happens if he does lose at Backlash. What's next for him after losing at Backlash? Then Jake comes in, being more being more on the fence towards Jacob, ends up mentioning that Roman is basically going to destroy Jacob, put him in his place. Then they end up alluding to his family that's going to be at ringside watching him. Ends up mentioning that when Roman does beat him in front of his family is going to start acknowledging Roman. Jacob, of course, didn't take that too fondly. He ends up repeating back into the match that he's going to have with Roman, how he needs to win. And he ends up telling the Usos that basically you guys shouldn't interfere because basically it's not going to go in your favor. And he ends up saying that he would tear down the entire family tree if they do end up interfering. This was an overall solid promo between the two. Last segment before Backlash, I don't really think we needed another segment between him and Roman. I think that would be unnecessary. There's really no point to really have Roman on the show. It would have been nice, but I don't really think you need it. This was a solid back and forth. Very interested in the match at Backlash. See how that plays out, because I didn't really think the Usos could potentially interfere, but the fact that they mentioned it does give a bit, a bit of a higher likelihood they would interfere, but I don't think it will be interference. I think it will be a clean match for once, but it is a bloodline match. You never know. So very interested how this match plays out, but this was an overall good way to start the show. The bloodline, they know how to keep you interested, even though it does go through certain points where it can be a bit boring at times, but when it's interesting, it is interesting. So I'm very interested to see how this eventually unfolds, whether it's Jacob joining Roman or Jacob continues to go after Roman after this match. Who knows? But who knows? Jacob potentially winning. I don't see that happening, but who knows? If they do end up shaking some things up, have Jacob win, who knows how that family dynamic plays out. But overall, I thought this was a good way to start off the show. Moving on, we end up getting a Women's United States Championship match between Tiffany Stratton versus Kiana James. This was a really solid match. Really enjoyed this match. This is hopefully this is what we continue to get with Tiffany Stratton. Something that we couldn't get with Julia, with is basically her actually defending the championship. So let's hope we eventually get that, because we all know this championship isn't going to be on a PLE. So at least can it get defended weekly? I'm cool with it. This match ended up being won by Tiffany. Of course, she ends up retaining due to some miscommunication from Julia, because it was early in the match. Julia didn't attack Tiffany when Kiana thought she was. And then later in the match, Julia distracts the ref. Kiana gets a roll-up pin, but the ref doesn't see it due to Julia's distraction, so they end up costing her the match. I like the story that they're telling with Kiana and Julia potentially breaking away, because I do think that is the best case scenario, because neither person is really helping each other out in this scenario, because like Kiana is supposed to help Julia with her being a mouthpiece, but they don't really utilize Kiana as a mouthpiece for Julia, so it just doesn't make sense. And then one of them is just being the other's lackey. So this is just not really a situation where it benefits nobody. So I do think the best case scenario is for them to break. The interesting question is, who's going to be the heel? Who's going to be the face? Because honestly, I think the most likely outcome is Julia being a face. I think that's the route they're going, because I think Kiana should stay a heel, because Kiana never been a heel in NXT, so her being a face would just be very weird. But who knows? Maybe she could pull it off. But I do think the right choice would be to have Julia turn face. Maybe she needs a face turn to get over with the crowd. Who knows? But nonetheless, I did like the story that they played there, and Tiffany does retain. So let's see eventually who's her next opponent. She is doing open challenges apparently, so we'll see eventually how that unfolds. But I did like this overall match, and I did like the dissension between Julia and Kiana. We end up getting a singles match between Damian Priest versus Tala Tonga. This is just to continue the story of last week due to the MFTs attacking Damian Priest and R-Truth. Damian Priest, before the match, ended up talking to R-Truth and telling him to stay backstage to make sure that no one, because he could take care of the MFTs due to his history with the Judgment Day, that he doesn't need R-Truth help and he doesn't want anything to happen to R-Truth. The match is happening. The MFTs, of course, interfere. R-Truth does come out. There was a moment where they did take out the MFTs, but Damian Priest gets distracted because he's confused on why R-Truth is out there. Tala Tonga takes advantage and ends up picking up the victory. After the match, though, the MFTs try to attack, but you end up getting Royce Keys ends up coming out to prevent that. So this is going to be very convoluted. I'm assuming we may end up getting a six-man tag match eventually between all these guys, because they've been telling this story where Solo is trying to recruit Royce Keys. Royce Keys is also in this bloodline stuff with Jacob. So we'll see eventually where this goes. This is a fine storyline. I don't mind it. I'm assuming this is eventually going to lead to an MFT tag team match, but I don't know how that's going to, I don't know who's going to be in the tag team match because Tama Tonga seems like he's going to break away from Solo. And I don't know if Solo is going to be the tag partner for Tama Tonga. So we'll see eventually how this all unfolds. Hopefully this isn't just a filler feud where this doesn't involve the tag titles because I do think we need to really just work on the tag team division. But we'll see eventually how this all unfolds. So I'm willing to give this story a chance though. We end up getting a backstage segment where Gunther is officially on the Smackdown brand. Gunther's officially on Smackdown, so I'm assuming Jacob Fatu will be the one getting transferred to Raw because typically that's how they do things. One person go to SmackDown, one person goes to Raw. I'm assuming Jacob will go to Raw due to him already challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, so it makes perfect sense. He ends up officially signing a contract to be on SmackDown. We end up getting Cody Rhodes, they end up getting on the microphone, calling out Gunther. Paul Heyman eventually comes out, ends up handing Cody Rhodes a contract for their eventual one-on-one match for the WWE Undisputed Championship at Clash in Italy, which I'm very excited for. The only question I do have is, where's Randy Orton? Look, if he's injured, that's fine. It's just a bit confusing because you left us on a cliffhanger at WrestleMania 42 with him punk kicking Cody standing tall with the WWE Championship. And now we're just not going with that story. Now we're just going with Gunther. I've been wanting Gunther and Cody a feud for a while now, but it just feels very weird that this is the time he chose it. And it's going to be, and I'm going to be kind of conflicted because I kind of feel like Gunther should win this match, but I know he's not winning because they're going to continue the story with Cody and Randy eventually. So I don't know, but the match should be an absolute banger at Clash in Italy. Can't wait to see how they build that story up. But then we end up getting a moment between Cody and Paul. Cody ends up asking him that why is Cody is Gunther his wise man now? Ends up saying that is he running out of options? Paul Heyman ends up saying that Cody is the one running out of options and that sooner or later everyone needs a wise man. I don't know if they're teasing something there. I don't know if they're teasing Paul Heyman being with Cody Rhodes in the future. A lot of people constantly think that everything that is quote unquote heelish from Cody is a heel turn. Cody is not turning heel until Cody turns heel. That's just how I am with it. I don't think WWE teases Cody turning heel until they actually feel like it's time to pull the trigger on it. Until Cody starts getting like crazy booed, they're not turning him heel anytime soon. But who knows? Maybe that's a future, future story down the road where Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes are aligned. Who knows? But you end up getting Gunther. He tries to sneak attack Cody Rhodes, but it fails. Cody Rhodes ends up standing tall, and he basically ends up telling Gunther that he's easy to find but hard to beat, basically. So very interested to see how this plays out. Very interested to see how this plays because Gunther is not the typical heel that Cody Rhodes face, to be honest with you. So yeah, Cody Rhodes typically doesn't face the over dominant heel like a Gunther. So it'll be very interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. So very interested how this plays out overall. I'm very excited for this feud and match to see how they build this up. Honestly, this is something I've been wanting for a very long time. I've been wanting this for years and we're finally getting it. It's a bit weird how we're getting it, but we're getting it nonetheless. Very interested how this plays out, but this was overall a really good segment. I hope eventually we get a back and forth promo with these guys, them talking, because I really want to see that dynamic between them talking on the microphone, because I think both guys can hold their own against each other. Gunther is very underrated on the mic, in my opinion. I think he could hold his own against Cody. They can have a really good back and forth. So I'm very interested to see how this eventually all unfolds. I hope Gunther wins, but I highly doubt it. We end up getting the women's tag team champions, Paige and Brie Bella. They end up cutting a short promo basically talking about how they're the women's tag champs and that they're ready to fight anyone. Then we end up getting Fatal Influence. They come out, make their statement for those women's tag team titles. Irresistible Forces didn't soon come out. They make their statement, talk about how they're going to be eventually the new tag champs again. Then they attack Brie and Paige, and that's really it. This just transitions into the 6-woman tag match between Fatal Influence versus Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, which was a really solid match. Ends with some shenanigans, interference from Jade Cargill. Fatal Influence do end up picking up the victory. I think Alexa Bliss was the one that got pinned. I'm not really sure, but Fatal Influence pick up the victory. After the match, Jade Cargill and friends ends up attacking Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley. So I don't mind this, but I also don't like. It's very weird because I don't know where this leaves Fatal Influence because clearly Fatal Influence is going to be out of the main event scene if they're going to put Jade back in it. So where does that leave Fatal Influence outside of the tag division? I'm a big concern for JC Jane. And then where does this leave Rhea Ripley? Because it's like, okay, if she's going to feud back with Jade, I'm assuming Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are going to want the revenge on Jade as well. So are they just going to put all 4 of them in the main event scene feuding against Rhea Ripley because Charlotte Flair still doesn't like Rhea. Jade doesn't like Rhea. So it's a bit confusing. I don't know how they're going to make this work. I don't know if I really want to see another Jade and Rhea feud. I'm going to give it a chance, but based off history, this is going to turn out really bad really quickly. And it's going to be unfortunate because everyone's going to blame Rhea and Jade for this and call them trash and overrated when it's the booking, not them. But we'll see eventually how this plays out, but I'm going to give it some hope that this turns out to be good. We finally get the main event. We end up getting the memorial, the funeral of the gingerbread man. Starts off with Trick Williams. He ends up talking on the microphone, having his memorial service. He ends up having a whole choir out there as well, singing. Eventually, Sami Zayn comes out. He crashes the party. He's basically crashing out. He's frustrated, annoyed, confused. Sami Zayn is basically crashing out. Then he eventually just talks and talks and talks. He did cut a very solid promo. He basically ends up saying that he's basically fed up with Trick and that he's going to basically win the U.S. title and that he's going to put Trick in his place. Then eventually he ends up attacking Trick Williams, attacking him. Then the gingerbread comes back out of the casket, reveals to be Lil Yachty playing Possum in the gingerbread costume, attacks Sami Zayn. Trick Williams ends up hitting a trick shot, stands tall. Look, this segment, I understand why people don't like it. I don't like it personally. I like the Sami Zayn stuff. After that, I felt like the whole funeral and stuff was a bit goofy. Now I will say this: the backstage segment with R-Truth and Sammy, that was funny. I will say that was funny. But outside of that, I feel like this whole funeral memorial thing was just very unnecessary in my opinion. Look, I understand if you like it because this is one of those goofy things in wrestling where you just kind of turn your brain off. I don't think it's a horrible segment in my opinion. I think a lot of people are just over hating on it personally. I don't think it was that great, but I don't think it was this, oh my God, the worst thing I ever seen. Like there's way worse segments I have seen than this personally. So I would say it was a mid segment because the only thing I really liked was the Sammy promo. That's really just Sammy crashing out. Everything else I was just kind of like whatever. So it is what it is. Overall show I thought was actually solid. I know a lot of people are going to say this was a bad SmackDown. I'm in the minority. I thought this was actually a good show. Outside of really the main event, because I don't think that should have main evented. I think that's more so the problem. That shouldn't have main evented. But the overall show was fine in my opinion. I thought the overall show was actually solid in my opinion. Nothing special, but a solid show. You guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.